Hello everyone! Welcome back to the art course. My name is Miss Hannah, and today we are going to be looking at the importance of shapes in drawing. Looking around, you can see that shapes are, well, all around us and are everywhere in our lives. Being able to observe shapes in our surroundings is an extremely important step for learning how to draw. So without further ado, let's get started on that. There are two different types of shapes that you might observe in the real world. Geometric shapes are the types that you learn about in school. They're your squares, your rectangles, your triangles, your circles. There are also organic shapes, which are seen in everyday life, like the shape of a leaf. They occur naturally. Don't worry about forms yet. I'll be reusing this for the next lesson, but we're going to start on forms next week. For this week, I want to focus on just the 2D shapes and how we can use them to draw more accurately. So the tip that I want to share with you guys, I call it break it down. And basically this is just taking the things that you see in real life and breaking it down into its simplest shapes. Going back to like the living room example, a table can be broken down into a rectangle and then the legs can be other rectangles. Or if it's a circle table, then you have a circle and 4 rectangles for the legs. This same sort of breaking things down into simple shapes can be done with any drawing, any picture, anything that you might see in the real world. They could all be broken down into its basic shapes, and it makes it much easier to understand the shape of what you're drawing and to be able to draw it more accurately. I wanted to give you guys an example of what I mean when I say breaking down pictures into their simple shapes. This is a picture of my sister's cat. Her name is Marie, and I thought that she would be great for this example. If I wanted to draw Marie, I can start by breaking down her face into the simple shapes that I can identify. So I'll start with like a circle or an oval for the head, and then I will draw out a circle for the snout just to differentiate it from the rest of the head. Then finally, I will give her 2 circles or ovals for her eyes. And then I can start on some triangles. I see that her nose makes a triangle, and of course, her 2 ears make up triangles as well. And finally, if I want to add the whiskers, I can add the lines for the whiskers. And I can just draw those on however many I want, just to indicate that there are whiskers. And now that I have all the basic shapes that I need, I can then add details onto these basic shapes later. So for example, maybe I would want to differentiate those 2 ovals there and indicate that they're eyes by adding more circles for the pupils or for the dark circle in the middle of your eye. So I can then add 2 more circles to the eyes. But this is what I mean by breaking down pictures into shapes, is to just make it as simple as possible before you start drawing the whole thing, to get an idea of how it all comes together. Shapes can also be used when drawing people. Shapes, especially when drawing people, can change the way that a person might perceive or think about a given person, or a person just based on how they look. I wanted to share with you shortly about just how effective shapes can be when drawing people and conveying what you want people to feel about them. This sort of idea is called shape language. And what shape language is the idea that different shapes can convey different sort of ideas or emotions based on our association with those shapes. And I've provided a few examples from some movies I've seen growing up, and you might have seen them too. The three basic shapes that are used in shape language are circles, squares, and triangles. Circles tend to be associated with cute things, or things that seem harmless. They're nice and round, they don't have any sharp edges, and they make great shapes for, you've got cute animals like Pikachu, or for maybe good guys like Mario and Yoshi. Mario and Yoshi have a lot of circle language there. And of course you have Mickey Mouse. His head is just one big circle and two circle ears. So circles are usually used to indicate friendliness when people draw out characters. Next we have squares. These are a couple of examples I was able to find based off of movies I've seen. Squares are usually used to indicate strength or sturdiness. So if I were to draw it out here, Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove, he's got a rectangle going on right now. That kind of indicates a sort of strength to his character. The same thing with Mr. Incredible. He's got a bit of a rectangle. It can also be used in different ways. For example, this is, I think his name's Carl from Up. This guy, he's not super strong, but he is very stubborn, or he's strong in his own opinions. And the animators for this movie decided to make him have square features as well. So you can see his entire body can be made up of squares and rectangles. Finally, we have triangles, and usually people like to use triangles for like the bad guys or the villainous characters because they're sharp and pointy. They're not as approachable, they're not friendly. Like if you think of a knife, that's sharp, you stay away from knives. So triangles are usually used for the villain characters. You'll see a lot of pointy shapes on Maleficent, on her cape. She's got all these points, and of course, she has the two horns on her head that can be turned into triangles. This is from a show called Gravity Falls, and this guy is just a literal triangle. They took this very seriously. And I wanted to use something other than Disney, so I found the Joker, and I found that a lot of features on him are triangles. So like his hair, his nose is kind of a triangle shape, his chin is very pointy, and they use a lot of sharp lines on the Joker. This may not have been intentional, but it definitely makes him feel a little less approachable, because the Joker's just a clown. And if he wasn't so scary, you might not think he's scary. So the shape language here is very helpful in indicating that this guy is dangerous. Shapes can also be used to fool an audience. So, for example, we have SpongeBob SquarePants. He's not the strongest guy. So, I think they just wanted to use a square for his shape. But even though he's a square, squares aren't always used for strength. Like I said, sometimes it can be used to indicate characteristics. I think in SpongeBob's case, it's just a fun shape. Same thing with Phineas's head. This is a character from Phineas and Ferb if you haven't seen it. He's actually a very friendly guy. He's not at all dangerous. And finally, This is from a movie that I grew up with. It's from the 1990s, and it's called Cats Don't Dance. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a very fun movie. But this character here, her name is Darla Dimple. And even though her character has a lot of like round, oval shapes, this is the bad guy in the movie, which I think is a lot of fun because she doesn't look like a bad guy at all. But if you've seen the movie, you'll learn right away that she can be kind of scary. She is not a nice kid. And if you watch the movie, you'll see a lot of times when she starts to show her more evil side, they'll make the little bow on her head in triangle shapes, and they really play around with the shape language with this character. So, not always a rule. Triangles aren't always used for villains, squares aren't always used for strong people, and circles can be used for bad guys too. So those are just fun things to keep in mind if you like drawing your own characters. That's something that you can use to either indicate what you want the audience to think about a character or to trick the audience into thinking that they're something that they're not. Alright, for your challenge this week, I want you to find a picture and I want you to break it down into its simplest shapes. This can be something that you really love to draw, or something that you have been too scared to draw, or maybe something you're really familiar with. It can be your favorite character, it can be an animal, whatever you want it to be. I just want to see you guys break it down into its basic shapes, its rectangles, its circles, its triangles. You may even want to go through some of your favorite movies and see if you can find the shape language in those characters. And make sure to share these drawings with the group. I think it'd be a fun idea if you just put up the picture of the simple shapes and let the other kids in the art group try to guess what it's supposed to be a picture of. And then once you've posted the simple shapes,